Your home with BuildAid on Mix 93.8. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.
BuildAid on Mix 93.8 FM. Good evening. My name's Graham Alexander. In the studio, Simon looking after the desk and Kay looking after all of us.
Okay, so I have a question for you tonight. 4 guys walk across a zebra crossing. They're on their way to make some more history, and they may even be singing about mustard, a hammer, or an octopus. I want to know where they're going.
Now, that's an easy one, Kay.
Even you know that one.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Okay, well, 41348 if you know where these guys are going.
I'm going to be chatting to Albert van Wyk this evening. Albert's written a book called The Proud Homeowner, but he's also been in the industry a long, long time. So we're going to learn something about the book and a whole lot of other things. Chatting about building, and our framework this evening is going to be the book The Proud Homeowner, written by Albert van Wyk. Albert, thank you so much for coming to chat to us.
It's a pleasure, Graham. It's an honor. Thank you.
Albert, we always try and establish how long people have been in the industry and so long and why they got into it. But you've really been around a long time, since 1973.
Yes.
Was it by choice, or was it something your family was in?
It was a hobby which converted over into a business, and that's why there was some love into it and enjoyment during those years.
And you enjoy it. You've built hundreds of homes. Did you enjoy most of it?
Yes, of course, I did. But there are the odd ones which you'd like to forget, you know. But generally speaking, yes, I've enjoyed it. And I've built various other buildings except homes, also during the years, factories and warehouses and garages and many things like that, and office blocks and things like that.
My dad was a builder. He used to call it a mugs game. And even though he warned me,
yes,
I'm in this industry, but I also enjoy it,
Okay.
every moment of it. You run a company as well called Gauteng Home Inspections. Just tell us a little bit about what's involved in a business like that.
When I stopped the construction company in 2010, I'm still too young to go and sit on the veranda and wait for time to pass. I started a company called Gauteng Home Inspections, where we do reports for buyers and for sellers, but mostly for buyers who are interested in buying a house, to know the condition of the house. Many people do not know what to look for before they buy out, or they are worried about certain things. You know, a couple walks through a house and the woman has sold on the house already. She's starting to pack and in her mind, and yeah. The husband is still worried about a crack or a damp patch in the walls. And then he says, you know, just finally, before I sign the documents, I'd just like somebody to give me professional advice, or the roof, or anything like that, to comfort me and say, yes, you can go ahead, you can buy it. And we do those kind of reports and inspections for people.
Okay. The show revolves around a book that you've written, Albert, called The Proud Homeowner. And I won't say I've read it, but I've gone through it in fair detail. And it's got a whole lot of useful information to homeowners that are about to build or busy building. I wouldn't like to call them hints, because there's also some other interesting stuff where you get into more depth rather than just a hint. Why did you write the book?
I discovered while doing home inspections that everything that you buy or purchase today comes with a service manual, instructions, even a guarantee, except 2 things. The one is a house. You're prepared to buy a house for 5 and 10 million rand. You do not even get a service manual or instruction book with it. And the other that comes without instructions are children. But they will come later with the instructions. So it is serve as a manual, as a service manual, as a guidebook for every homeowner to know what to do, and because there is no such guidebook available in the industry today.
I just want to run through some of the chapters briefly, Albert, and then we're going to pick on a couple of them like cracks. You've got sort of 15 different bits of terminology with regard to types of crack, and I find that very interesting. So we're going to spend a bit of time on cracks, but that's later in the show. I just want to go through your first couple of chapters, and one is about ownership, and the other one's about buying the property, and then legal matters and so on. What do you look out for with regard to buying a property? And I know you've just touched on it now, but just as a layman, you want to go, what is the general sort of list?
We've identified 3 major defects in a house. The one being cracks, the other one damp, and the other one leaking roofs. If you do not have any of those 3 major defects in a house, when you go out and look for a house, a chip tile, a cracked glass pane, or things like a door handle falling off, those are minor things, which everybody will identify, and he'll say, yes, okay, I've noticed that. There are dirt marks on the walls and what have you. But those extraordinary things like damps and cracks and we have this great challenge when we go and do a house inspection, is that the house was now repainted. And you do not know how many cracks or damp was covered with this just prior to this. And the client expects from us to tell him that cracks were patched. There's a difference between patch a crack and repair a crack. Now, most of the time the cracks have been patched. And to identify it and look through the paint, the new paint, and see, but this crack has got more than it shows on the surface. And the same with damp. Look out for those things. And those are the major things that can cost you a lot of money to repair.
Just a couple of other things that you've covered. Just so if anybody wants to get hold of a copy of this book, it's really worthwhile if you're building or intend building. You talk about the NHBRC, the National Building Regulations, how to work with these guys, what the regulations are about. Obviously, the regulation itself, we could spend the next year talking about that. Yes. But the important things to look for, and one to also understand that there is a regulation.
Yes.
There's a regulation for everything in your building.
Absolutely. The important thing, and maybe in conclusion, for anybody who wants to build a house or doing alterations, important thing that I would say is make sure that you identify or appoint the correct contractor, and then make sure that your documentation is correct. The contract that you enter into with him, the costing is exactly, the payments are specified, how it will be done, the valuations, who will do the valuations, who will do it. I experience it so often, that owners are requested to pay more than the value of the work that they've done. It results in disputes and things like that. But as long as your documentation, your contract, your costing, your payments, all in good place, and your specification. I've had cases where I asked the guy, I said, the skirting that you've installed here, is this the correct one? He says, I don't know. I said, what was specified? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and people
we see that all the time.
Okay,
the skirting eventually gets fitted, but you go, who told you to do that?
Yes.
You say, well, it's good building practice. No, but what size is good building practice?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that causes disputes. But by having it correctly done, you can build it. You should have a good relationship with your building contractor.
We've chatted to people often post-construction, and that's the thing that comes up the most regularly, is that you must choose the right building contractor above all other.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Albert, let's just check with Kay. What that building was, or what's it called?
Okay, we were looking for a building in London, and it's the most famous and oldest purpose-built recording studio in the world. We were looking for Abbey Road Studios, and the 4 guys crossing the zebra crossing were, of course, the Beatles.
The Ho-Hos.
The Ho-Hos, and that's the cover of their album that was called Abbey Road, and it was iconic, not only because it's a cool picture, and there's a Foxy behind them, it's because they didn't have the name of their band or the album on that cover. It's the first time anyone's sort of been that confident. So well done to everyone who got it right. Very impressed.
Albert, just for the last time, if anyone wants to get hold of a copy of your book, proudhomeowner.co.za, have a look at that and you can buy a copy. So thanks to Ian videographing the show. Thank you to Simon. And thanks to Kay for looking after all of us. But a special thanks to my guest, Albert van Wyk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Graham. It was a pleasure.
We do this every Wednesday. We'll catch you next week. Ciao.
Your home with BuildAid on Mix brings you all sorts of interesting info about building. Graham Alexander chats to different guests every Wednesday evening between 6 and 7. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.